Fox 44 News brings you this special Lone Star Echoes, Saigon's Untold Stories.
April 30th, 1975. 50 years ago, the world watched in disbelief as Saigon fell, a moment that reverberated far beyond the borders of Vietnam. But the impact of that day was also deeply felt here, in Central Texas, the Brazos Valley, and all over our state. This program tells the personal stories of our neighbors, local individuals whose lives were forever touched by the fall of Saigon, from those who served in the conflict and witnessed the chaos firsthand, to the sights and sounds that have been created after the fall of Saigon 50 years ago. Through their voices, we uncovered the direct connections between a faraway war and the lives lived right here. Hear the accounts of Texans who were part of the war on the ground and in the air, the agonizing decisions they faced, and the indelible marks left on their hearts. Discover the journeys of those who served in Vietnam, came home to very different lives, and the challenges and triumphs of building those new lives while honoring their past. This is their story, their memories of a world in turmoil, their acts of compassion, and their resilience in the face of profound change. We explore the local legacy of a global event, revealing how the fall of Saigon shaped the lives and the landscape of Central Texas, the Brazos Valley, and our state. Stories of impact on Lone Star Echoes, Saigon's Untold Stories.
Welcome to Lone Star Echoes. It's been 50 years since the fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War, perhaps one of the most controversial wars fought in American history. The United States and some historians continue to grapple with its legacy decades later. I speak with the family of a late Vietnam veteran who shares why a large part of that controversy still holds lasting impacts today. Right in the heart of East Waco, you'll stumble upon one of the most eclectic yards in the entire neighborhood, decorated with art pieces and embellishments that bring color and life to an otherwise mundane street.
It's relaxing.
It's the home of Shirley Sims, widow of Vietnam veteran Sergeant Louis Sims. I spent an afternoon with Shirley, and she welcomes me into her very unique home.
You like it?
Inside this home, the memory of her late husband are everywhere you look.
Still miss him every day, but it's just like his presence still here because it's where he resides. And the pictures and everything.
And on full display hangs his service uniform.
A few of the proud Marines.
Louis was 18 when he enlisted in the Marines, served in Vietnam for 4 years, earning 26 medals during his tour, including a Purple Heart.
He got wounded in action on Christmas Day.
When his only son, Louis Sims Jr., tells me about his father, it's clear that they shared a special bond.
Every time he had a chance, he would just talk to me about life.
And the war stories his father kept from his mother, Louis shared with his son.
My daddy said we weren't winning. If we weren't getting killed in the field, if they weren't getting killed leisure time, they were just getting picked off. And they did not know the area.
The U.S. Armed Forces were in uncharted territory, but refusing to back down, they deployed an herbicide called Agent Orange. It was used to kill the leaves on trees and dense jungle that provided cover for the enemy. Over 19 million gallons of Agent Orange were sprayed all over Vietnam, spanning 20 million acres from 1962 to 1971.
You knew at some point that it's going to get bad. With that Agent Orange.
The USDA discovered its toxicity in 1969, but the damage was already done. Exposure to it has been linked to 50 diseases and illnesses, affecting over 2 million people. It has also resulted in death. 300,000 U.S. veterans have died from Agent Orange. Louis was one of its victims, his wife and son recounting the years he suffered from body aches and pains throughout his entire life. And at the age of 71, he was diagnosed with bone cancer from exposure to Agent Orange.
Was I mad? Yeah. What can you do? You fought for us. You fought for your country. You made it. But the result is you catch something.
And he died less than a year later.
My daddy always been my best hero, my best friend. period. You know, he always tell me a lot of stuff. And so when he but yeah, he been my best friend, for real. He been my best friend. And
Why are you getting emotional?
yeah. He always been.
As you can see, some old wounds never truly heal.
Imagine there's no country.
In an anti-war protest and a call for peace, here is music legend John Lennon live on stage for the last time, performing his hit song Imagine, less than 2 weeks before the fall of Saigon on April 30th, 1975.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
As we reflect on the Vietnam War 50 years later, and in the case of Agent Orange, it's hard to ignore the deep consequences our actions have played out decades later. But if we can all learn from our mistakes, imagine the possibilities.
The repercussions of Agent Orange are far more widespread than we can imagine. According to the Vietnamese government, as many as 400,000 Vietnamese people suffered death or permanent injury brought on by Agent Orange. Scientists say toxic byproducts are still embedded in Vietnam's ecosystem today. Babies born with birth defects 3 generations later. Many veterans served in Vietnam before the fall of Saigon in 1975. One of them is Hewitt attorney John Carr, who served in Vietnam from January 1969 to January 1970. Here's his story on how his service in Vietnam and the fall of Saigon shaped his life.
I was honored to serve my country.
John Carr did as a first lieutenant in the Army's Special Forces Group, commonly known as the Green Berets.
I was a first lieutenant in the 5th Special Forces Group. The 5th Special Forces Group had a series of camps along the western Vietnam border from the DMZ down to almost down to Saigon.
Here's Carr in his first combat patrol out of Camp Doc Siang near the Vietnam-Cambodia-Laos border. He vividly recalls his experience there.
It was warm. You know, it was pretty hot. In Special Forces, you have a 1-week combat orientation training that gets you ready for going out to your camp. Once you get your feet on the ground, you kind of get acclimated to the whole scenario, and you just want to go out and make contact with the enemy, you know, and do your job.
Carr stressed doing the job could be gut-wrenching.
Things got hard. I was at Doc Siang for about 3 months. I was actually on watch at night, the night that Ben Het got attacked by 3 Russian PT-76 tanks. Shortly after that, I got sent down to Ben Het, and that was the most significant combat duty I had.
Carr shared when he returned from Vietnam in 1970, there was no hero's welcome home for himself and some others he knew.
I can give you an example of a friend of mine who was also in Special Forces. When he landed in Oakland, somebody came up to him and shot him in the belly, and he said, "You baby killer." So when I came home, there was no band playing, there was no welcoming committee. People looked at me like I was some sort of a freak show. That was very disheartening.
As we, the press and the Americans evacuating, made our drive through Saigon to the American embassy, people, mostly families, pleaded with us for a seat.
Carr remembers the reports of the fall of Saigon in 1975. He says it impacts him to this day.
All of the lives of Americans, the 50-something thousand, who went there to do their job and to bring victory was thrown away, just cast away. As to us who were there, it'll always be a significant event that it fell. Yes, that's it.
50 years after the fall of Saigon, Vietnam vets recount why the history surrounding their service is different than the rest.
Along the banks of the Brazos lies years of sacrifice, forever entrenched in Waco history.
I think that's important. I think that's a good way to tell their story.
Preserving the patriotism of Vietnam veterans since being dedicated in 2004.
That's a part of just being a good old red, white, and blue-blooded American and being patriotic and loving your country. That element just, it may get damaged from time to time, but it never goes away. It never dies out.
From the very beginning, when troops first deployed to Vietnam in 1965, before the bloodshed.
I wrote a blank check to the country, said, here, take my life, take whatever you want. Because there was no thought about honor or glory, any of that stuff. It was just serving my country.
To the conflict that arose throughout the 8 years of direct involvement of the United States.
In retrospect, we kind of feel like it was pointless. I don't think that they had our best interests at heart. I'm not sure why we were there, even to this day.
Encapsulated with the honor bestowed on those that lost their lives in combat.
I was relieved that it was over. You know, obviously, no more killing. No more loss of lives.
The 50th anniversary of the Fall of Saigon brings a split sentiment between those that laid down their lives on the battlefield.
If you don't want us to do our job, don't put ourselves at risk. And that's the thing I try to make sure that people understand today. Because we haven't learned any lessons from Vietnam as a result of the mistakes we made there.
Looking back on it now, we didn't go about it the right way. Not that lives were wasted or that we wasted our time, but we learned a lot.
Breeding discomfort with the sentence, "Thank you for your service," 50 years later.
I'll say, well, I'm sorry we lost, and my wife will always rib me about that because as a Vietnam veteran, my personal opinion is we lost that war.
I'm uncomfortable with that because it just seems kind of shallow. For us Vietnam vets, it just rings kind of hollow.
Through all the controversy surrounding the war in Vietnam, on this 50th anniversary, Waco Veterans Memorial stands the test of time to honor those that serve their country.
I like the plaque that, says for those who've given their all, that some gave all, and we need to remember that.
Did you know that the National Vietnam War Museum is based here in Texas? In this 50th anniversary of the Fall of Saigon, the museum offers a powerful look at that pivotal moment in history.
Welcome to the National Vietnam War Museum, and follow me to see the secrets.
Jim Messinger knows all about these secrets, which are on display as soon as you walk through the door.
What kind of memories does this one bring back?
Oh, the greatest memory of all. I almost failed flight school because of this helicopter.
Yes, Messinger was a helicopter pilot, did tours in Vietnam in 1967 through 68, and again in September of 1970 through September of 1971.
Helicopter pilot was a big thing. I wanted to be in the Air Force, and they required a college degree. I was majoring in women and beer at the time, and my grade point average was slipping. If it went below 2.0, you're going to get drafted. And I was at 1.8 when I headed to sign up for the Army.
For Jim Messinger, building the museum was his second love. Flying helicopters was his first.
When I went to Vietnam, I was 21 years old, and my first job was to fly around in my helicopter and let people shoot at me. Anybody out there want that job? Let me know.
Across from the training helicopter, another display that touches Messinger's heart in a different way.
The evacuation of Saigon. It's the only war that has been blamed on the soldiers. And unfortunately, the government wanted to run the war. And they don't know the first thing about running war, so it was messy over there. Yeah, I'm out here at least 2 days a week, and sometimes more. And it's very emotional for me. Still.